just like that. And now look at that beautiful crepe.
About that. And to see more, you can stream Good Day on your Fox Local app. Well, thanks so much for joining us on this Friday. Hope you have a good rest of your day and a good weekend. Hope to see you back here Monday for the Fox 9 Morning News and back here at 11.
Hello, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us here on All Day Live. I'm Amy Hockert. We're glad that you're here on this Friday. It is January 9th, 2026. Hopefully, the sun is out today. It's really bright in here today. Actually feels kind of good. The sun is out. Hopefully, you can get out and get some fresh air this weekend. We are following for you several live events. Of course, many of them related to Wednesday's shooting death of Renee Good by an ICE agent. The fallout continues politically, also here on the ground, specifically with our schools. Also, a little bit later, meteorologist Keith Marler will be here, and Jared Piepenberg in the 1 o'clock hour telling us a little bit about our weekend forecast. Will we have more sun? Are we going to stay warm like this? And then Lauren has some news about Highway 280, some pretty big news. I think she was even saying she'd never really seen this kind of announcement before, so we'll talk about that with her. And then a little bit later in our second hour, about 1:45, a really big moment for Anthony Edwards at Target Center last night. Just another huge career milestone at just 24 years old. So a lot to get to here in the next couple of hours. We want to take you first, though, live to Minneapolis. This is outside the Federal Whipple building right now. This is the scene. You can see some media there. We've got a live camera on the ground that's moving around a bit. And I think is that Mike right there? Or is that somebody else? I thought that might have been one of our folks. But, this is a place where starting at about 7 o'clock yesterday morning, there was this emergency protest to protest ICE's presence here in Minnesota. There were, it looked like maybe 100 or so people yesterday. There were some dust-ups between protesters and the ICE agents, and I think there were about 11 people who were arrested yesterday. And so now this is what we have here today. It's been quiet, and then protesters will show up and then kind of swell and ebb and flow just a little bit here throughout the morning. So we'll continue to watch this as well. But you can see the folks now, the protesters lined up there, and then on the other side is where there you see the ICE agents on the other side of them. They're lined up, and that is the Whipple building. It's the federal building in Minneapolis. Along the crosstown, Highway 62, kind of over by the VA area, so not downtown or anything. It's over sort of more by Fort Snelling. They had shut down some ramps to that area yesterday, and we haven't heard any kind of word about anything happening as far as the roads go. We will continue to watch this. One other shot that we have up right now that we want to show you is this is, I'm told, White Bear Lake. And guys, is this a high school, or is this? Do we know where this is? This is at the high school. So we've got a student walkout here. We know that there have been a couple of schools that we've heard from today who said that they were going to be doing something similar today over the noon hour. Again, the same as the protesters at the Whipple building, asking ICE to leave Minnesota and protesting the operations that are happening here. And I know we'll be checking in with some of our reporters who are covering this. The schools really have become part of the story here in the last couple of days because of an incident that happened at Roosevelt High School in Minneapolis just a few hours after Renee Good was shot by the ICE agent. So we'll be talking a little bit more about some of the educators and some of the things that are coming out of that today, and schools closing and other things that they're having to do to navigate the situation with some of the families being afraid to send their kids to school. And we'll talk about that here in just a little bit as well. Something that just wrapped up here not too long ago, probably within the last 15-20 minutes or so, was a press conference that was given by Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison, joined by Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty. They reacted to the FBI's decision to shut the state out of investigating Wednesday's deadly shooting of Renee Good by that ICE agent. So the BCA is the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, and that is the state's investigative arm. And they have now been told by the FBI that they will not be receiving any of the evidence, any of the forensics, any of the interviews in order to kind of do this interview either in tandem or independently. They don't have access to that. They do have authority, according to Hennepin County Mary Moriarty, to make a charging decision, but she says without access to that evidence, it's really hard. So, for instance, the state doesn't have access to the vehicle. They don't have access to any forensic testing that's going to be coming down the pipe. The FBI had gone in, as they typically would, and taken that evidence out. By the time the BCA got there, it was gone. Again, Moriarty stressing that there's no problem with that. It's that they don't have access. So we wanted to share with you some of what she and A.G. Ellison had to say just a short time ago.
Our efforts in advocating for a joint investigation is not an attack on the FBI. We have had a strong working relationship with the local FBI field office throughout my administration. Based on a previous experience with FBI processes, we are concerned that the evidence obtained in an investigation that has only been conducted at the federal level will not be shared with our office for review. In the past, the FBI has invited us to see a high-level overview of their investigation, but we were prohibited from seeing the entire investigation or talking about what we saw in that PowerPoint publicly. While I respect the FBI's process, our community's expectations are much different in terms of transparency. This community expects to understand what the evidence is and the justification for any decision that might be made. To that end, I cannot overstate the importance of a local investigation, or at least access to the federal investigation by the BCA. Without it, we will not have the ability to be transparent with our community about the results of the expectation, or, as I said, any decision that might come of the review. And let me be clear, we have no preconceived opinion on what the evidence will show. Making a charging or decline decision in an officer-involved case requires us to evaluate the evidence in the context of complicated legal issues. For that reason, we cannot reach a conclusion about any outcome here. Our goal must be to ensure that a thorough investigation is completed at the local level so that our community can have transparency. We do not yet know if there will be sufficient evidence without the FBI case file to even make a charging decision.
The fact is we have an interest as state prosecutors, which is what we both are, in fairness and transparency, and to the degree that is possible to set forth a process which, when it's over, fair-minded people can say, well, as good and just of a job that could be done was done. I think I agree with County Attorney Moriarty. There is no conclusion that anyone can reach in good faith at this time, because there's too much evidence still to be evaluated.
All right, again, that's Attorney General Keith Ellison and Mary Moriarty, Hennepin County attorney, who would have been potentially involved in charging this out if the state could move forward with its investigation. Our Mike Manzoni was there and listened to the same thing we did, and joins us now. I think he's available now. See, right. Hi, Mike. So just really quickly, interesting. So the tone, I thought, was interesting today. I think maybe people thought that they might come out with some teeth and kind of just really come after. They really didn't, though. The tone was very subdued and felt like they were kind of really asking for help here from the federal government.
Well, that's right. At this point, it seems like they're kind of at the mercy of the feds, but also the general public. They have a QR code that they've put out there. They want people to scan it. It I guess, sends you to a link where you can submit photos, videos, any accounts of that being at the scene, if you were an eyewitness, and they are really kind of asking for the public's help. But of course, they don't, as you mentioned, have access to the critical pieces of evidence in this case. So the vehicles involved, the vehicle driven by Renee Good, the two other vehicles that she crashed into after being shot, the bullet casings, those kinds of things. And so if they don't have that evidence, how could they possibly make a charging decision or even have a complete investigation? Was one of the questions that Moriarty was asked. And she said something to the effect of, well, we don't always have, or we usually don't have perfect investigations. Not everything is, under ideal circumstances. But the other thing that kind of stuck out to a lot of people was she indicated that the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension would be involved to the extent that that agency would at least gather some of the evidence submitted to the Hennepin County Attorney and the Attorney General's office through this QR code. And we had asked we asked her if she could clarify kind of their involvement in this now, and she didn't. Of course, the reason that's important is because just a couple of days ago, the BCA superintendent Drew Evans had said that his agency was reluctantly withdrawing from the investigation because the FBI had shut them out. So I have reached out to the BCA to kind of see if we can get a sense of kind of where things stand now, or if their position has in fact changed. It's notable that the BCA was not at that news conference.
Yeah, it seemed, again, that the tone was kind of tepid. It was very careful. Mary Moriarty saying many times, being very careful not to criticize anything that's been done as far as the FBI coming in and clearing the scene and taking the evidence, taking the car, saying there's nothing wrong with that. It's the access. And, I guess I don't know for sure, but it seems, I don't know that I've ever reported on an instance where the federal government, they can come in and take over a case, but where they sort of shut out the state agency that may want to do its own investigation too. So it's a very different sort of situation to try to navigate for everybody. But again, I think just to reiterate, Mike, because I think even at the end of the press conference, the last thing that Hennepin County Mary Moriarty said was the agent it doesn't have immunity in Minnesota. And I think some people might say, well, wait, so is there still a chance that Minnesota could still, and just to be perfectly clear, there's really no chance here, right, that this could be charged out in Minnesota.
The general sense is that it probably not, but she also noted that it's too early to really make any firm conclusions because they just don't really have any evidence or access to kind of the most critical pieces of it. Okay, all right. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate that. We'll continue to follow these developments as well. I think there's definitely holding out hope there that perhaps the federal agencies will change their mind. Okay, let's. Do we want to go back to the Whipple building, guys? Where do we want to head from here? Okay, let's take you back there. And Kara or Ryan, go ahead and catch me up here on anything that's been going on that we may have missed while we were talking with Mike. But again, these are some of the protesters who are out there. Okay, thanks, Kara. There was apparently a brief encounter with the agents. Kara, do you want to just kind of describe to me what you saw, or? Okay. Was it okay? All right. So again, we're just kind of watching. What's happening here as these protesters are there at the Whipple building, This is the federal building in Minneapolis, and we'll keep an eye on it. We've got our crews there, our cameras there, and we'll be sure and follow it for you, and we'll bring you out there if anything happens. All right, let's talk about what's happening today. So today is dubbed by Governor Tim Walz a day of unity. So we're 2 days out now from when the shooting happened. And what the governor did today was really invite all Minnesotans, all Americans to this day of unity. One of the things he had asked was that at 10 o'clock this morning, there was a moment of silence to remember the victim, Renee Good. Some
I know some schools did that, some businesses. He just called on anybody who wanted to do that. Another thing we saw this morning was the removal of those barricades. So on Portland Avenue, Portland and 34th, where this happened, the city ended up going in and removing the barricades. They did it for safety reasons, and the barricades were they weren't put up by the city, they were put up by protesters. And what the city said is basically we need those roads to stay open for first responders, emergency vehicles. The memorial, though, the flowers, the candles, everything else for Renee Good are remaining there at the scene. And then also yesterday, we just showed you the Whipple building. We know that hundreds of people did gather out there to protest. And so this is video from yesterday, a lot more people out there. The Department of Homeland Security telling us that 11 of those protesters were arrested on things like assault and obstruction charges. And officers say that the protesters were doing things like blocking law enforcement vehicles from entering the building. Also say they were assaulting and spitting on federal law enforcement. Of course, a lot of people right now who are wanting to go out and protest some of them are really trying to learn about what you can and cannot do, what's considered, throwing an object, what's considered an object. This is again from yesterday. Snowball an object, is spitting, that kind of thing. Really important for people to understand as they enter these situations for everybody's safety. One of the things that has really been impacted by this, and I don't know that many people maybe saw this coming this quickly, has been on some of the schools here. So we know that all Minneapolis public schools have offered students this option of learning from home, and that will go actually until February 12th. All classes and activities canceled yesterday in Minneapolis, again today, just sort of out of an abundance of caution. And then public schools in Fridley and Columbia Heights also canceled classes today, citing some safety concerns over some ice activity they say is happening in their communities as well. All right, and let's take you back out to White Bear Lake, the high school there, where students, as you can see, are exercising their First Amendment rights, and they're doing a walkout this afternoon to protest ICE's presence here in Minnesota. We know of a couple of other schools where this is happening today, and again, this happens to be in White Bear Lake. It's the noon hour, so this is probably a lunch hour for a lot of these kids. And we'll continue to monitor that and any other protests or walkouts that are happening here. We got you covered for the next couple of hours. All right, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll have meteorologist Keith Marler here to talk a little bit about this sunshine and how long it's going to last. We'll be right back after this. hello there. Hello there to
Oh, now I
you.
hear music.
Now you hear it. Meteorologist Keith Marler joining us now, and I'm not used to the shades being drawn or pulled up here today, and I think maybe they need to come down. I don't know if it's too bright, but doing one of those.
Can we do that together?
Man, but it looks good and it feels good out there, and good for our roads this morning. First morning, I think we've not had to kind of worry so much
on a widespread basis.
Yes.
A few sneaky ones here and there, but yeah, I barely had any rain from all of that yesterday. I think I had 200ths of an inch at my place, Maple Grove, officially 300ths. But Southeast Metro was in that 2/10 to quarter-inch range as we got our little bit of rain that rolled on by yesterday evening. And so sure, there was some folks that saw a few slippery spots, but we had all night to dry up as that rain was out of the metro at 9 to 11 o'clock yesterday evening. It didn't get out of the far southeastern part of the state until almost 4 o'clock this morning. By that point, there was a little bit of snow mixing on in, but we also stayed thawed through the night. So we talked about that yesterday, how we weren't going to freeze with that rain at all. And we would stay above freezing. That was important for a lot of folks, and a lot of our icing concerns overall with all those slippery spots. But yeah, once we broke free of the cloud cover, we went below freezing this morning, and it's been cold, but we are doing our best to just tease the thaw day. We'll run up and just kind of touch it here and there.
Okay.
Little 32s and 33s, but then we're just going to get kind of chilly as we head to the weekend. So there's our 32-degree high today. Right now, we're just kind of around that zone now. A lot of us in the metro, we've got a lot of 31s, 32s, and 33s in and around the Twin Cities. So we're going to kind of balance out here for the rest of the day as we got plenty of sunshine. And again, it is nice and bright, but from here on out, these little high, thin cirrus are just kind of get more layered and layered for the rest of the afternoon as a weak clipper system rolls our way. It's going to give us a little skiff of snow overnight tonight, maybe a dusting to a ½ inch in the Twin Cities, but up to an inch for areas to our north and east of the metro areas. This swings on by, but we're not going to just shut down the snow. We'll keep a few light flakes and flurries flying tomorrow, caught up in kind of some turbulent northwest winds behind that weak system. So we'll stay blustery and cloudy and kind of variable, and temperatures just aren't going to go anywhere. We'll fall down to around 19 or 20 tomorrow morning, and then we'll just stay there with kind of a northwest wind and a gust. We'll have wind chills that'll stay in the single digits for tomorrow. So that'll be kind of a change of pace for us with wind chills again and kind of a raw day. We'll have to find the big coats again if we go out on anything for tomorrow afternoon. A lot of people are going to be out tomorrow afternoon. So yeah, you'll have to make sure you're bundled up properly for all of that. Then back to some sunshine, patchy as it may be on Sunday, with more seasonable temperatures. An average high for this time of year is 24, and that's where it's going to be for an average for the next week or so, as that kind of stays put for a good chunk of the rest of January, actually. And then we're done with that. And look at that. I mean, back to the upper 30s to near 40 again. End of Monday and Tuesday with another rain chance initially on Tuesday that could wrap up as a few flakes toward the evening. So all in all, yes, we are bouncing back and forth our freeze-thaw cycle, although we give it up for a couple of days. We're right back at it again into Monday and Tuesday. So we are having a hard time buying cold weather for a long period of time. Ian mentioned this last night, our La Nina cycle that we had kind of gone into the winter thinking we were going to have, because that's the pattern we were going into and we had established, has fallen apart and given up. Essentially just given up. So therefore we are kind of in this, it's you know when you see machines start to break down and then they start to flap around and they're in sync, and all of a sudden they go flap, 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 and things start to fly off. We're in the fly off phase of that machine.
Okay.
And so it's like this weird chaos, but it's like, all right, we got to go with it now. Well, here we are. All right.
Flopping around.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good.
We'll find the equilibrium. We'll find where we're supposed to be, and it will all be all right.
We always do. All right, Keith. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, thank you too.
All right, we're going to do some regional headlines here for you. We're going to start out in the St. Cloud area. The city of St. Joseph has apparently pulled the plug on some plans for a new regional community center. They've been planning it for years. The city council now has terminated all the contracts because they didn't raise enough money from private donors. They really felt like they needed to do this, they say, because some state funding was going to be running out. It was awarded, I think, in 2022, $4 million for the community center, but it expires in December of 2026, so this year's December, and they just don't feel like they can get there. So the city's going to give back the funds and then unfortunately have to end those contracts with St. Cloud YMCA and some other local partners. All right, to Rochester now, talking about Rochester Public Schools. They're thinking about making some changes in the district ahead of the school year next year. The Post-Bulletin saying that one of the changes could mean consolidating a couple of schools. So they're considering moving Sunset Terrace Elementary School to the same building as Gage Elementary. But rather than merging the two communities, the proposal would actually keep them as separate schools, just sharing a building. In order to move forward with that, the district would just have to make some changes to the attendance boundaries. And of course, it comes as, you know, all these school districts are trying to reduce budgets, in Rochester specifically by more than $8 million for the 26-27 school year. So that's happening in Rochester. All right, let's see, Fargo. Talking about Fargo, that city, trying to find a way to regulate something that's been happening there. They've had this recent uptick in food carts on the streets of downtown Fargo, and there have been some complaints, apparently complaining about some of the carts staying open past 2 a.m., loud noise, garbage, some of them maybe without permits. So Fargo Inform has this story, and they say that the city allowed the food carts, you know, to bring some vibrancy to downtown, but they're facing some problems now enforcing some of those regulations. So apparently there was a listening session on Wednesday, 2 days ago, just try to gather some input on this. And then residents in downtown, business owners said that they've got concerns about people taking advantage of the city for not enforcing all of these things and then not having enough resources to clean up after it. So the city basically asking people there to, you know, reach out if they have any more concerns regarding the carts, but they are just trying to find a way to regulate what they put into place. All right, let's send you to a break really quickly. We'll be right back with much more here on All Day Live, including more headlines for you here. And yeah, I think going to break, Red Wing. Oh, so pretty. Red Wing. We'll be right back.
This January.
And welcome back to All Day Live. This is in White Bear Lake right now. These are primarily high school students from White Bear Lake High School who are staging a walkout today to protest the ICE presence that's here in Minnesota. Of course, the shooting death of 37-year-old Renee Good on Wednesday by an ICE agent. This is a chopper shot live now over White Bear Lake. Oh, sorry, this is now downtown. Thank you, Aya, for that. This is now downtown, but it started at the high school. So are these the high school students who walked over, Aya, do you know? Yes, okay, great. So it's just hard to see. It's a little farther away, but these are the high school students who are staging this walkout here over the noon hour. We know that's happening at least one other school. Wayzata had one planned today as well, as the kids getting involved, and we know that they've been the center of attention here in the last day and a half or so, as there was an incident at Roosevelt High School involving an ICE agent, and so we'll tell you a little bit more about that here in a little bit, and some of the reaction from Minneapolis School District, as well as Education Minnesota, which is a union representing more than 80,000 educators here in the state. But first, we want to tell you a little bit about a press conference that happened just a short time ago here in Minneapolis. Some city leaders talking about how they're dealing with the aftermath of Wednesday's shooting. So we heard from Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, who is now expressing his concerns over the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, Minnesota's investigative arm, not being allowed to investigate the death of Renee Good, as we know that investigation now being handled by the FBI. So here is a little bit of what the mayor had to say.
The Bureau of Criminal Apprehension at the state of Minnesota has consistently run these investigations before. They have done so without bias. They have done so with a great deal of expertise. This is not some radical, way out there group. This is a group that is formed by experts who understand how to investigate. Many of them have been police officers themselves. So our ask is really simple here. Our ask is to embrace the truth. Our ask is to include the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension in this process, because we in Minneapolis want a fair investigation. Is it deeply concerning that this administration from the very get-go is drawing the conclusion that they may ultimately come to? Of course it is. And if you got nothing to hide from, then don't hide from it. Include local experts in the process. We got nothing to hide from here. All we want in Minneapolis is justice and the truth. And speaking of the truth, let me give you another one. I have heard countless people talk about Minneapolis, many of them who have never been here, as some form of post-apocalyptic hellscape, as a place that is dangerous. Well, let me give you a statistic. 50% of the shootings that have happened thus far in Minneapolis this year have been ICE. In other words, we've only had 2 shootings. One of them has been ICE. We are a safe city. ICE is making it less so. We are a city of unity, but ICE is trying to divide us and tear us apart. For every one of the people that you see standing here behind me, they have more than 1,000 people behind them. They have people that are committed to their neighbors, committed to integrity, committed to justice, and committed to getting the truth. We will not back down from it.
The videos that we have all seen, yourself included, does not match the false narrative from the federal government. In fact, you could hear the words, "I am pulling out," moments before ICE decided to take the life of Renee Good. She was a mother, a wife, and a beloved community member, not a domestic terrorist. I'm calling on Trump's FBI to allow the Minnesota BCA to have access to all the information so an independent investigation can occur. It is important and critical to our community to have a sense of trust in this process by having an independent investigation to present to the county attorney so that adequate charges can be made.
If you actually are interested in public safety, if you actually are interested in the legitimacy of a law enforcement force in your community, then you must be invested in accountability, in transparency, and in fair investigations when bad things happen. That's right. And so that's the question in front of us. Do we want a legitimate investigation? that pulls in the professionals of the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, who are trained to do this, who have done this over and over, who have the kind of local connections and local legitimacy that the FBI could just never have because they don't have that kind of presence here? Or are we going to have a discredited farce of an investigation?
All right, so more reaction today. And again, this is a live look at White Bear Lake right now, where students are staging a walkout over this noon hour. They made their way downtown White Bear Lake from the high school. And looks like there's maybe a police officer there or someone there, just making sure everybody stays safe and off of those roadways. One of the reasons that we are seeing things happening at schools now and folks reacting to the ICE operations is because it spilled onto school property. In at least one case, we know that a few hours after Renee Good was shot in South Minneapolis on Wednesday, that there was an incident at Roosevelt High School in Minneapolis. Now, the teachers union, the Minneapolis Federation of Educators, say that agents deployed chemical irritants and then detained and later released a school staff member who was assisting with a safe dismissal process. That's what they say. And then federal officials say that the agents were actually trying to arrest somebody who fled into the school zone. They say a school staff member then assaulted an agent. A crowd formed, throwing objects and paint at officers and their vehicles. So now we are seeing, out of an abundance of caution, Minneapolis shut down schools yesterday, also today, after school activities. Fridley, Columbia Heights also saying that they have seen ICE activity in their communities, so that their students are not going to school today as well. Education Minnesota represents more than 80,000 educators here in the state. They say they're concerned because students increasingly aren't coming to school because their families are worried about their safety. So again, they're urging ICE stay away from the schools, leave Minnesota. They had a press conference this morning. Just wanted to play you part of that.
We all know what tragedies have happened in Minneapolis, but the ICE oppression is reaching every corner of our state. We have members reporting ICE terrorizing students in St. Paul, Bloomington, Columbia Heights, Burnsville, Fridley, Richfield, West St. Paul, Osseo, and Apple Valley. We have seen ICE agents in Roseville circling school property, just waiting for families to pick up their children. In Greater Minnesota, students in St. Cloud, St. James, and Rochester are afraid to go to school for fear of being harassed, assaulted, or worse by the very people our government was sent to protect us. We have seen our students assaulted and our colleagues wrongfully detained. Every moment ICE remains near our schools endangers children, educators, and families. Beyond the physical danger, ICE's actions directly undermine teaching and learning. Just in the last 2 days, an elementary school was placed on lockdown, and schools in Minnesota's largest city were forced to close. That's 2 days of learning our students will never get back. Parents should never have to choose between their children's safety and learning. Yet seats are empty in Minnesota's classrooms across the state right now as families are keeping their students at home. They are just trying to keep them safe.
We need ICE out of Minneapolis now. We need ICE out of Minnesota now. We need ICE away from our schools now. Since arriving, ICE has been a dangerous and out of control force, putting every Minnesotan in danger. A mother was murdered. An elementary school was forced to lock down. Grown men used pepper spray on terrified high school students on school property. And that was just on Wednesday. This is the opposite of protecting our kids. This is the opposite of keeping the peace. Nothing about this is okay.
And then we also heard from the Minneapolis School District specifically this morning. Before we play a clip of that, just want to remind folks that oftentimes you'll hear allegations of specific things that people say that happened. We haven't been able to sort of independently verify everything from protesters or from people on one side of the issue or the Trump administration on the other side. So just know that we are kind of sharing that information from both sides, but just want to make sure and clarify that sometimes you'll hear things from either side, and just know that a lot of times this is their thoughts and what they believe, and on both sides of things. Just trying to really be very careful about how we're presenting all of this information. The Minneapolis School District again also weighed in today, so let's listen to some of what they had to say.
Good morning, all. My name is Natasha Doctor, and I am a Minneapolis resident and Minneapolis Public Schools social studies teacher. Currently, I serve as the first vice president of the teacher chapter of the Minneapolis Federation of Educators. I'm here today because as a leader in our educator union, I have the profound responsibility to support our members in ensuring our schools are safe and stable places where all of our students can exercise their constitutional right to a public education. On Wednesday, educators at Roosevelt saw the safe and stable environment our schools provide violated by federal immigration enforcement agents. Just hours after the horrific murder of our neighbor, Renee Good, at the hands of the state, something we have experienced before on the South Side with George Floyd, a reckless group of CPD agents, which included Greg Bovino, were in the process of detaining an observer. In that process, agents came onto Roosevelt High School grounds during the school's dismissal process. While on school property, they deployed chemical irritants and detained an educator and MFE member who was doing their job at dismissal. Let me be very, very clear. Immigration enforcement should never, under any circumstances, be on school grounds. As we saw yesterday, as we saw on Wednesday, they do the exact opposite of making schools safe. And while Wednesday's event at Roosevelt was horrific and traumatic for our members, students and community, it unfortunately was not surprising. And it's not even the main story here in Minneapolis. The main story is about the violence against our immigrant neighbors and the fear and collateral damage it is causing across our communities. The perpetrator of that violence is federal immigration enforcement. What we saw in Minneapolis on Wednesday is an escalation of an existing threat, not a wholly new one. These tactics are standard use of force for DHS, the Border Patrol, and in communities across Minneapolis, in Chicago, LA, and across our country. The escalation of violence and threats that these agencies are causing here in our community led to school being canceled yesterday and today because the conditions in our city with these agents are unsafe. Our city's children are our most precious resource. And we will be the ones to keep them safe. As an educator and union leader, I am begging every single person in Minneapolis to get a whistle, wear it at all times, and get plugged into the rapid response network in your neighborhood. Whether you live here on the South Side, over in Linden Hills, East Isles, or up over north, our community, you all, will be the ones to get us through this moment. We keep us safe, ICE out of our schools, ICE out of Minneapolis, ICE out of Minnesota.
All right, so to kind of wrap up the coverage here, we move now to Portland, an investigation, Portland, Oregon, investigation continuing now today. 2 people shot by a Border Patrol agent yesterday. Department of Homeland Security says that a driver was speeding away from a targeted traffic stop. They say a passenger in that vehicle was a Venezuelan man involved in a recent shooting. The Trump administration says a Border Patrol agent fired a shot because he feared for his life. Portland police say a man and a woman were were hurt in that shooting, but at this moment, I'll check again here in another minute, but still no word on their conditions, although last reports were that they were alive. We know that, Minnesota has been now ground zero for fraud investigations, especially from the federal government. And there is now a new federal operation that has been launched in Minnesota, this one targeting fraudulent refugee applications. The Department of Homeland Security and then U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services are calling this Operation Paris. It's P-A-R-R-I-S. It's a sweeping initiative taking a second look at thousands of refugee cases through some new background checks, intensive verification of refugee claims. PARIS stands for Post-Admission Refugee Re-Verification and Integrity Strengthening. So they've already started referring cases to, they've already started referring these cases to the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE. They say that the initial focus here will be on the state's 5,600 refugees who have not yet been given lawful permanent resident status, or green cards. And here's, kind of how it looks. Apparently there is a new vetting center with adjudicators who will conduct thorough background checks, do some re-interviews, and also merit reviews of refugee claims. So that is something that is kind of part of the bigger picture of what the Trump administration is doing here as a crackdown on fraud, but just one of those components specifically for the applications for refugees. One more thing here that we wanted to mention that is happening today that is really notable, and this is having to do with Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent here in Minnesota this afternoon, having a roundtable with some local politicians, some activists as well. And basically, he's doing this in tandem with some new federal initiatives that have been announced today by the Department of Treasury. So a couple of things that jumped out at me here that I wanted to just share with you. Let's see, here we go. All right, so let's go through a couple of these bullet points because I think they could have maybe an impact here on certain folks, especially those who maybe wire money overseas. So the federal government has issued now, this is just today, they announced this, 4 notices of investigation into money service businesses in Minnesota that provide financial services outside our formal banking system. So that's kind of word salad for some of these financial services that would be, wiring money overseas that maybe they don't have absolute control over. Also, auditing financial institutions that facilitated the laundering of Minnesota funds. That's specifically talking about some of the Feeding Our Future funding. The IRS will soon form a task force to investigate any fraud and abuse involving pandemic-era tax incentives. So again, harkening back to the Feeding Our Future and others that other programs that may be similar. This one was interesting too. So geographic targeting order to require banks and money transmitters located in Hennepin, Ramsey counties, so Minneapolis and St. Paul, to report additional information about funds transferred outside of the U.S. So certain transactions here, specifically transactions over $3,000 where the beneficiary, the person receiving it, is located outside the U.S. So for those who are used to doing wire transfers to maybe family or friends back home or just overseas and for any capacity using these wire services, banks and money transmitters will be tracking those. And if they're over $3,000, there will be reports that have to be filed for those. So those were some of the new things that I wanted to pull out of that today for you and bring you the latest developments in that Trump administration crackdown on fraud here in Minnesota. Let's go to break, but before we do that, another quick check of the weather, and then when we come back, we're going to kind of wrap up this hour of the show, and then we're going to go back again. We've got much more to come here on All Day Live following, again, some live events, some of the things that are developing here this afternoon. Stay with us.
Feels good to be back into the sunshine as we roll on into the day-to-day, or slide on into the day-to-day, as we look at the Maple Grove ice loop there, as folks are again doing their thing on some slippery spots. These intentional, not all of them necessarily so, this morning, earlier this morning, as we had some fresh rain that rolled across the area, of course, yesterday evening. We picked up officially just about 0.12 of an inch in the Twin Cities. We had the low end just a 1/100 of an inch in the Northwest Metro, but a 1/4 inch in the Southeast Metro, but a 1/2 inch to an inch in far southeastern Minnesota as they went rolling on by. But the good news, of course, was that we stayed thawed for all of that rain last night as it came rolling on by. It didn't fall below freezing until earlier, way earlier this morning. Then we stayed there for a while, now back up to 32 for a high today, so just teasing a thaw. Most of the day stays frozen, only teasing that thaw in the metro. Most of the viewing area stays in the upper 20s and lower 30s for the day. Only a handful of communities in the metro around the Twin Cities and in southern Minnesota just kind of dabble up at 32 or 33. Patchy clouds and sunshine build through the afternoon and evening after a brighter start. Northwest winds 5 to 10 miles per hour make for a light chill into the afternoon overall. But those clouds are coming from an approaching clipper that brings a dash of light snow overnight tonight. Since temperatures down to around 20, we'll pick up a dusting to a 1/2 inch in the metro, but upwards of an inch plus the farther northeast you go into northeastern Minnesota. And that leaves us chilly with blustery flow into tomorrow, windy, cloudier, and with off and on light flakes and flurries kind of sporadically through the day on Saturday. And temperatures hold, though, right around 21 degrees through the day on Saturday. We break free of that, get back to some partial sunshine, rebound just slightly into more seasonable temperatures in the mid to borderline upper 20s on Sunday. And then here comes a warm-up again, looking nice and beautiful on Monday. Highs in the upper 30s to near 40 with sunshine. And trying to press that 40 button despite extra cloud cover on Tuesday with rain rolling back into the area, changing over to some light flakes on Tuesday evening, and then back to seasonable or close to 20s heading into the middle days of next week.
Huntington Bank.
All right, welcome back. We got Kara working on the show today. We got Ryan in the hot seat right now because Ryan
staffed.
Yeah,
Fully
seriously.
staffed.
Like almost too many people. No, I won't ever say that.
Yeah, don't say that. Then you know the bosses.
Well, I know. I can hear that. So I wanted to ask you about this because you and I started talking about this a few days ago, and I'm still not really super clear. But the news that I was just reading, I think this was in the New York Times, maybe today or yesterday. It says 9 Major League Baseball teams that are televised by FanDuel have now terminated their contracts. This is according to the Sports Business Journal, and they're saying that the decision comes after there's a number of missed payments from FanDuel, specifically one to the St. Louis Cardinals. So you were saying that this is a bigger issue, right?
Yeah.
What can you tell us?
This has a pretty big impact. So rewind to a year or so ago, a couple seasons ago. Remember there was all the shakeup on whether the Twins would. So the Twins left. They went to Major League Baseball. Now handles their production. Well, there were 9 teams or so that stayed with the FanDuel network. Then they've gotten sold a couple times in between there, and they're trying to get sold again. I think Fubo is the latest that's trying to buy them. But anyways, now there's more financial issues now with FanDuel Sports Network, and as the Sports Business Journal reported, one of those teams did not get a payment, the St. Louis Cardinals. So all of those teams now are trying to figure out what's next. And I think I saw an article from that Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred had said Major League Baseball is willing to take over these broadcasts, so it would be a similar move to what we saw the Twins do. So that seems to be the step if they can't figure out a deal right here. So a lot going on with the Major League Baseball. Now remember, FanDuel also the Wild and the Wolves are on FanDuel Sports Network. It sounds like, while there's some issues there, it sounds like they're going to continue throughout the season to broadcast. I mean, they have a few more months left, but you never really know on this as FanDuel looks for a new parent company.
Okay, and so, but you're saying it's not like it would just go away. We wouldn't be able to watch games. There would likely be, I mean, the leagues don't want that, obviously. So then someone would just take it over, like MLB took over.
Yeah, that would likely be the avenue for Major League Baseball. They have a few months to figure this out, and Major League Baseball has the kind of the infrastructure in place to stream these games. So that would likely what we see. Now, if there is issues on the MLB or the NBA or NHL side, now that would be kind of unprecedented. We hadn't really seen anything like that before. So, but it does sound like that might stay on FanDuel at least till the end of the year. So.
Okay. All right. Ooh.
A lot going on there.
There's a lot going on there, and you think about the people who work there. I mean, that's, we know a lot of the folks obviously that call those games and work for the network, and so you always hope it kind of works out for everybody, and they do such a great job. So it's just too bad that the network is struggling so much.
Remember when there was just like one channel that had the game on, and you just look in the TV guide, turn that dial, and it was there.
It was free.
It was
Remember
free.
those days? So, but you know what? Guess where you can watch a lot of free sports, Ryan?
You know where. Right here on Fox 9. Fox 9 Plus.
That's right.
So
we're doing it. We're doing our part. I think a lot of heavy lifting around here.
There you go.
For bringing folks free sports when we can.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take a break and come on back
here.
What's that? Oh. Is this Kaposia Landing? Is that what this is?
Looks like it to me.
Okay. Oh, yeah. No, I recognize that branch over there. We'll be right back. Welcome back to All Day Live. We're really glad that you're here today. It's 1 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, and that sun is shining, and it is feeling really, really good right now. It's nice to see the sun. We wanted to catch you up on some of the headlines, some of the things that we are following here this afternoon. We have had several, kind of a fire hose of press conferences that have been happening since this morning. We'll bring you some of them. One, Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison and along with Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty held a press conference just a short time ago where they are reacting to the FBI's decision to shut the state out of investigating Wednesday's deadly shooting of Renee Good by an ICE agent. The BCA, the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, would be typically the agency, it's the state's investigative arm that would come in and do its own investigation, maybe alongside the federal government. Sometimes the federal government just takes it over. But Hennepin County Attorney Moriarty saying that they do have the authority to make a charging decision here at the state level. However, without access to evidence, things like the vehicle, interviews, forensic testing, that it makes it, nearly impossible. So here is some of what they had to say this morning.
Our efforts in advocating for a joint investigation is not an attack on the FBI. We have had a strong working relationship with the local FBI field office throughout my administration. Based on a previous experience with FBI processes, we are concerned that the evidence obtained in an investigation that has only been conducted at the federal level will not be shared with our office for review. In the past, the FBI has invited us to see a high-level overview of their investigation, but we were prohibited from seeing the entire investigation or talking about what we saw in that PowerPoint publicly. While I respect the FBI's process, our community's expectations are much different in terms of transparency. This community expects to understand what the evidence is and the justification for any decision that might be made. To that end, I cannot overstate the importance of a local investigation, or at least access to the federal investigation by the BCA. Without it, we will not have the ability to be transparent with our community about the results of the expectation, or, as I said, any decision that might come of the review. And let me be clear, we have no preconceived opinion on what the evidence will show. Making a charging or decline decision in an officer-involved case requires us to evaluate the evidence in the context of complicated legal issues. For that reason, we cannot reach a conclusion about any outcome here. Our goal must be to ensure that a thorough investigation is completed at the local level so that our community can have transparency. We do not yet know if there will be sufficient evidence without the FBI case file to even make a charging decision.
The fact is we have an interest as state prosecutors, which is what we both are, in fairness, in transparency, and to the degree that is possible to set forth a process which, when it's over, fair-minded people can say, well, as good and just of a job that could be done was done. I think I agree with County Attorney Moriarty. There is no conclusion that anyone can reach in good faith at this time, because there's too much evidence still to be evaluated.
All right, and continuing on with some of that coverage, today, noted by Governor Walz, calling it a day of unity, Friday today, to remember Renee Good, the woman who shot and killed by an ICE agent in Minneapolis. So today, really a day the Walz administration says to invite all Minnesotans, all Americans, to participate in acts of service in honor of her and remembrance of her. Also, a moment of silence was he put that out there. If folks wanted to have a moment of silence, we know some folks at schools or businesses or wherever people were recognized that as well this morning. One other thing that was a development this morning is we saw the city of Minneapolis remove those barriers on Portland Avenue where they had been. That's where the shooting happened on Wednesday, and they did it for safety reasons. The barriers were actually put up by protesters, and the city said that that road needs to stay open, for first responders and emergency vehicles. So they took down the barricades. However, they did leave up any part of that memorial that was there that had been building for Renee Good. Yesterday, just kind of catching you up on this, there were hundreds of people we know that had gathered outside the Whipple building in Minneapolis. This is the federal building to protest ICE, and we saw on and off during our live coverage yesterday things like this. We saw some interactions there, and then also we saw ICE agents also arresting some folks who were obstructing, and so we know now that about 11 of those protesters were arrested on assault and obstruction charges. So just wanted to bring you an update in case you were wondering just how many people ended up being apprehended. Again, officials say that protesters were blocking law enforcement vehicles from entering the building. They say they were assaulting the ICE agents, spitting on law enforcement as well. So again, all of these cause for obstruction. One of the impacts here of the immigration operations has been on schools, and all of the Minneapolis public schools we know shut down yesterday and also today, and after school activities also have just an abundance of caution. And now today we're learning that the district is offering e-learning, so learning from home to those students in the Minneapolis School District from now until February 12th. So they got about a month. So that's kind of the new part today. Also, we learned today that there are other public schools. We know Fridley, Columbia Heights also canceling their classes today, and their district citing safety concerns over, they say there's ICE activity in their community as well. We also heard from some city leaders. Did we want to play this, Kara? Yes, okay, so we did hear from some city leaders as the city is continuing to kind of deal with the aftermath of all of this. We've heard from Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, of course, several times since Wednesday, and today he spent a little bit more time talking about the same thing that other state and county officials are talking about, their concern over the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, or the BCA's inability to access information in this investigation. So the investigation, again, handled by the FBI. So here is what some of those city leaders, including Mayor Frey and a council member, had to say.
The Bureau of Criminal Apprehension at the state of Minnesota has consistently run these investigations before. They have done so without bias. They've done so with a great deal of expertise. This is not some radical, way out there group. This is a group that is formed by experts who understand how to investigate. Many of them have been police officers themselves. So our ask is really simple here. Our ask is to embrace the truth. Our ask is to include the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension in this process, because we in Minneapolis want a fair investigation. Is it deeply concerning that this administration from the very get-go is drawing the conclusion that they may ultimately come to? Of course it is. And if you got nothing to hide from, then don't hide from it. Include local experts in the process. We got nothing to hide from here. All we want in Minneapolis is justice and the truth. And speaking of the truth, let me give you another one. I have heard countless people talk about Minneapolis, many of them who have never been here, as some form of post-apocalyptic hellscape, as a place that is dangerous. Well, let me give you a statistic. 50% of the shootings that have happened thus far in Minneapolis this year have been ICE. In other words, we've only had 2 shootings. One of them has been ICE. We are a safe city. ICE is making it less so. We are a city of unity, but ICE is trying to divide us and tear us apart. For every one of the people that you see standing here behind me, they have more than 1,000 people behind them. They have people that are committed to their neighbors, committed to integrity, committed to justice, and committed to getting the truth. We will not back down from it.
The videos that we have all seen, yourself included, does not match the false narrative from the federal government. In fact, you could hear the words, "I am pulling out," moments before ICE decided to take the life of Renee Good. She was a mother, a wife, and a beloved community member, not a domestic terrorist. I'm calling on Trump's FBI to allow the Minnesota BCA to have access to all the information so an independent investigation can occur. It is important and critical to our community to have a sense of trust in this process by having an independent investigation to present to the county attorney so that adequate charges can be made.
If you actually are interested in public safety, if you actually are interested in the legitimacy of a law enforcement force in your community, then you must be invested in accountability, in transparency, and in fair investigations when bad things happen. That's right. And so that's the question in front of us. Do we want a legitimate investigation that pulls in the professionals of the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension who are trained to do this, who have done this over and over, who have the kind of local connections and local legitimacy that the FBI could just never have because they don't have that kind of presence here? Or are we going to have a discredited farce of an investigation?
All right, we are going to take a quick break right now and continue the show in about 2 minutes, so stick with us here. Meteorologist Jared Piepenberg right over here. He's going to talk to us about our forecast this weekend and into next week. A little bit of all over the place. So we'll be right back.
Rob and Michelle. And welcome back to All Day Live.
Oh, look, our 3 little markers over there made the shot.
Oh, nice.
So cute. I was like, what is that? Oh, the little markers over there.
Oh, like the green screens are like, it's very cool.
They just add. So maybe they're like little Easter eggs.
We don't have plants in here, but we do have colorful markers.
Let's start a little pop of color over there.
Yeah.
Jared Beepenberg here now. Tell us a little bit about this weekend and what we're looking for, because outside right now it's just, it looks like a spring day.
It really does. Kind of feels like that too. It's just outside. So we're kind of continuing this kind of warm roller coaster where our cool days are going to be closer to average this weekend. So a small dip in our weather, but it's not going to be that bad. Tomorrow afternoon it'll probably hover like close to 20, 21 degrees.
Which still isn't that.
That's really close to average.
Breeze or not a lot of wind?
Tomorrow looks like the one day that we'll have a breeze out there. So we'll just kind of notice that little northwesterly wind will be gusting in the 20s. So anyone, going skiing or sledding, or, if you're out doing some ice fishing, you'll notice a little bit of that breeze. But we're going to see a little bit of snow here. Northwestern Minnesota, seeing a little bit of that on the radar. And eventually that's going to head our direction, dropping down to the south and east. So hey, if you're hitting the button in the middle of the controller there, she's running my graphics for me.
There you
go. That one should just, it should just go here in a second. But we're going to watch this slowly progress south and eastward. It'll just turn into a few snow showers. It'll cloud up overnight tonight. And it really doesn't look like much. And Futurecast probably overdoing it there. Places kind of looking like a ½ inch of snow in some places. You may wake up to a little bit of that. And this low pressure system that's around tomorrow, it's just kind of tightly packed. So it'll come with a breeze. Temperatures fairly steady for tomorrow, and there'll probably be some light snow showers just kind of scattered here and there. That really won't amount to much, just kind of that light snow that's falling. Today, though, the patchy sunshine, temps pretty solid out there, just right on the edge of feeling that thaw. Really light winds in the sunshine right now. It's just gorgeous. Tomorrow, though, 21, but feeling colder with that northwest breeze around 10 to 20. We'll have some gusts a little bit higher than that across the state, and the flakes should stay pretty light. It really won't amount to much, but I just wouldn't doubt it's just like, oh, it's snowing again really lightly. That's not. Snowing again lightly, then it's not. But look at our cold days, lower 20s, which is really close to average, and then we're right back up. Monday, barely any wind, sunshine, 39 is going to feel gorgeous. Of course, it's on a Monday, but
not too late to maybe take that.
No, and we look at a bunch of weather models to just kind of put our forecast together. We just use that as guidance. If I was going to extend this out, there's a lot of question marks, which is pretty typical. I was looking at last year in January. We had a 52-degree temperature at the end of the month last year, and and it was just this giant wavy pattern where we had really warm days and we had really cold days. So we'll see if we'll go that trend or if we'll go kind of these 20s to 30s through the extended. But snow-wise, I don't see any big snow systems. And my son's always been asking, like, are we going to get more snow, Dad? And it's it's more of like these little birds. So so let's say 10, 11 tonight. It's kind of what it looks like, the time frame roughly. We might pick up that ½ inch. And then later in the forecast, it's a rain to flaky action on Tuesday. And then probably later on next week, we'll have on a little wave of some light snow. But I don't see any big systems impacting us to bring enough. Someone's like, I would love to get ½ foot of snow again, get some fresh snow up there. So the snow lovers, I really don't see that in our forecast right now, but I feel like the warmer temperatures, general pattern here is above average, like every single day, except tomorrow will be just barely below average.
Wow. Okay. All right. Good to know. Thank you, Jared. Appreciate it. All right, we are going to continue our coverage now on following up on some of the fallout and the things that are happening after the shooting that killed 37-year-old Renee Good by an ICE agent. And we wanted to check in with our Corin Hoggard right now, who's working on some stories for later this afternoon. Corin, tell us what you've been working on today and who you've been speaking with.
Hey, Amy. Yeah, this church right here behind me is All God's Children. It's on 31st and Park. So just for perspective, for folks who don't know, it's about 3.5 to 4 blocks away from the scene where everything happened on Wednesday. And I've been talking to the pastor here, who is somewhat active, I think is fair to say, in protesting ICE. He says every person needs to be treated respectfully, and so he goes out whenever he hears the whistles and the car horns that indicate that ICE is around. He goes and listens. He said this time it kind of stuck around, and so he went out there to kind of see what was happening and to support the folks in the community. And what he says happened is he was detained by ICE. So they were apparently at that point, he and the crowd were chanting, "We are not afraid, we are not afraid." This is maybe 15 to 30 minutes after the shooting. He had just himself found out that the shooting had happened. He said that ICE kind of was, in his words, they were harassing a woman who looked like she was Hispanic. He said, "Take me, take me." And then they continued chanting, "We are not afraid." And he says that the agents, one of them waved a gun in his face, said, "Are you afraid now?" And then handcuffed him and put him in the back of a black SUV with a couple other folks. And they came back every once in a while. He said a total of 4 times, asking him, "Are you afraid now?" And then eventually they let him go. And they said, according to him, they said, "You're white and that wouldn't be any fun anyway, so you can go." And so that's his version of what happened on Wednesday. He said he joined the protest after that, so he was detained for less than an hour and then was released and joined the protest.
Okay. And, you know, oftentimes, well, always, we want to get the other side of a story. And if you just want to kind of explain to folks, you know, the process of how we try to do that in these situations, it is very difficult to do. Corin?
Yeah, I mean, that's fair to say. I literally, you know, finished the interview with him and now know what he said. So now I will go and ask ICE what their comment is related to this.
Yeah.
And, you know, chances of us hearing back are 50-50 today, but hopefully we'll have a response from ICE about what they did here regarding this pastor.
Yeah, and I think one of the things we're seeing a lot more of too is documentation. And I don't know if you've had a chance to talk to him or others about, you know, about why they're out, why we have constitutional observers who are going out and getting trained specifically in kind of how to document these things.
Yeah, I mean, he's the one who was detained, so he took some photos before his detention and shared those with us, but he wasn't recording at the time, and he is not a constitutional observer. He was just a civilian observer at the time, although he hadn't even gotten to the scene. We're on 31st here. The scene was further down past 33rd, so he said he hadn't even gotten to full black by the time kind of a wave of ICE officers and protesters kind of came towards him, and that's when he had his interaction.
All right. Appreciate it. I know you're just kind of getting started here for the afternoon. Thanks, Corin, for checking in on some of the things that you're working on here for later this evening. We'll see you in a little while. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. We'll take a break right now, and we'll come on back in just a couple of minutes. Oh, no, we're not going to do that? No? Should we take a break? Headlines? Okay. All right. Let me get my headlines in order here. Hang on just one second. Just bear with me. Do we have any elevator music we can play while no, we don't. Okay, that's all right. All right, let's do this. Okay. This is something that came down this late this morning that we wanted to let you know about. So if you see flags at half-staff here in Minnesota tomorrow, the governor has ordered that all U.S. and Minnesota flags fly at half-staff on Saturday in remembrance of a firefighter by the name of Andy Ziegler. The 44-year-old died unexpectedly. It was December 28th, so at the end of this year. He served for the Malacca Fire Department for 15 years. So if you do see flags at half-staff, if you have flags at your home that you wanted to fly at half-staff, that is what the governor is asking of folks. Okay, let's talk about what's happening with Luigi Mangione. It's a complicated story, but also I can kind of try to boil it down to let you know what's happening today. He was back in federal court. This was really an important hearing. I don't believe we got any sort of a ruling on anything. And Kara, if you have a second to check to see if they set a trial date. Okay, they have not yet. So we expect that we are going to get a trial date maybe today. That's the expectation. But basically, Luigi Mangione, of course, he's accused of killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, a Minnesota native, in New York City a year ago. Back in federal court, a really important hearing to try to fight it's his fight to bar the government from seeking the death penalty in this killing. So Mangione's lawyers, of course, say that authorities prejudiced his case and turned it, they say, into a Marvel movie spectacle by publicly declaring their desire to see him executed even before he was formally indicted. And then, let's see. Federal prosecutors say that Mangione's lawyers are wrong. They say the murder charge is legally sufficient, and that while pretrial publicity was very intense, it's not a constitutional crisis. So there's all of this happening. Mangione has pleaded not guilty to both the federal, which is what we're talking about here, and then also state murder charges, which carry the possibility of life in prison. So this was his first trip to the Manhattan federal court since mid-April, when he was first arraigned. And we also know that there's been an effort by his attorneys to try to get some key evidence thrown out. Some of the items that were gathered at that McDonald's and afterwards, when he was arrested about 5 days after the killing in Pennsylvania, some of that evidence that was gathered, according to the defense, was gathered without Mangione having the proper rights read to him. They say that his rights were violated, so all of that evidence should not be admissible into court. So that's playing out as well. Today, again, there was no decision. Trying to look to see if there was anything else. Bear with me here. Just kind of reading this cold. I don't believe there was anything else that happened today, but he was just back in the state court, in federal court in Manhattan. All right, that is definitely on the radar for today. One other thing that caught our attention that we wanted to share with you is a story you might read about a little bit later. I believe we've got a story on fox9.com, but apparently a woman from Minnesota was killed in a shark attack. This happened in the Virgin Islands yesterday afternoon. They say the shark ripped the woman's arm off, and she died a short time afterward. She is from Detroit Lakes, I believe. I believe it's going to be Detroit Lakes. I think this is a misprint. A 56-year-old woman, Arlene Lillis is her name. The governor of the U.S. Virgin Islands says in a statement, quote, "Our hearts are with the family and loved ones of the victim and everybody else who witnessed that tragedy." This happened, let's see, about 4:30 in the afternoon. St. Croix first responders came in and they confirmed that the female had lost an arm and succumbed to her injuries. You know what? They're saying Lake Detroit in northwest Minnesota, but I'm pretty sure that they mean Detroit Lakes. But I could be wrong. There could be a Lake Detroit near farther up. So anyway, that is the latest. So if you see that headline, that is what happened in the Virgin Islands. One other thing that we wanted to bring your attention to here is happening up in Voyageurs National Park. So I don't suppose, you guys, normally we have a live cam that's up there, and I know I'm asking you on the spot here, so if we can't do it, we can't do it. But they had something pretty remarkable happen up there. They have some footage now of the first confirmed observation of lynx kittens in Voyageurs National Park, and one of only a few observations of known lynx reproduction in that greater Voyageurs ecosystem. They've documented lynx in the park sporadically for several decades, but there's never been any sort of evidence of kittens in the park. So it's pretty incredible. They have some video if you want to check it out at Voyageurs National Park as well. All right, I think we can take a break now. Yes, you're good to go. All right, let's take a break and come on back. More headlines to come. We're also going to talk with Andrew Dukowitz about those Timberwolves, specifically that one player, Anthony Edwards, and the huge milestone that he crossed last night. Just continues to rack up just incredible stats, and last night was no different. So stay with us. All Day Live continues right after this. And welcome back to All Day Live. Just wanted to share with you something that just someone in our newsroom just noticed here from Wright County. And it looks like on the Facebook page of the Wright County Sheriff's Office, the sheriff, who is Sean Deringer, sorry if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly, the Wright County Sheriff will not be seeking re-election. So there's if you're interested, you can go and read about it. Just after much thought and prayer, I want to share with the community that I will not be seeking another term as sheriff. I will continue to serve proudly through the end of the year and remain fully committed to the responsibilities of the office at that time. So you can read a little bit more about his decision there, but again, that's in Wright County, according to their Facebook page. All right, continuing on now with some of the things that have happened today, still the fallout from Wednesday's shooting death of 37-year-old Renee Good by an ICE agent, an FBI ICE agent. We've seen an impact on our schools here in Minnesota, and one of the reasons is because of an incident that happened. It's been confirmed that there was an incident at Roosevelt High School in Minneapolis, but there are different versions of what happened. So it was a few hours after Renee Good was shot in South Minneapolis on Wednesday. The teachers union says, the Minneapolis Federation of Educators says that federal agents deployed chemical irritants at Roosevelt and detained and then later released a school staff member who was assisting with a safe dismissal process. Federal officials give a different account of what happened. They say that agents were trying to arrest someone who fled into a school zone, and they say a school staff member then assaulted an agent, and then a crowd formed, throwing objects and paint at officers and their vehicles. So because it sort of spilled now onto school property, Education Minnesota was speaking out today. They represent it's more than 80,000 educators here in Minnesota. One of several groups that say they're concerned because they say students aren't coming to school because their families are worried about their safety. These groups are urging ICE to stay away from, they want ICE to leave Minnesota, specifically to stay away from their schools. So we wanted to play you just part of that press conference from earlier today.
We all know what tragedies have happened in Minneapolis, but the ICE oppression is reaching every corner of our state. We have members reporting ICE terrorizing students in St. Paul, Bloomington, Columbia Heights, Burnsville, Fridley, Richfield, West St. Paul, Osseo, and Apple Valley. We have seen ICE agents in Roseville circling school property, just waiting for families to pick up their children. In Greater Minnesota, students in St. Cloud, St. James, and Rochester are afraid to go to school for fear of being harassed, assaulted, or worse by the very people our government was sent to protect us. We have seen our students assaulted and our colleagues wrongfully detained. Every moment ICE remains near our schools endangers children, educators, and families. Beyond the physical danger, ICE's actions directly undermine teaching and learning. Just in the last 2 days, an elementary school was placed on lockdown, and schools in Minnesota's largest city were forced to close. That's 2 days of learning our students will never get back. Parents should never have to choose between their children's safety and learning. Yet seats are empty in Minnesota's classrooms across the state right now as families are keeping their students at home. They are just trying to keep them safe.
We need ICE out of Minneapolis now. We need ICE out of Minnesota now. We need ICE away from our schools now. Since arriving, ICE has been a dangerous and out of control force, putting every Minnesotan in danger. A mother was murdered. An elementary school was forced to lock down. Grown men used pepper spray on terrified high school students on school property. And that was just on Wednesday. This is the opposite of protecting our kids. This is the opposite of keeping the peace. Nothing about this is okay.
And then we also heard from specifically the Minneapolis school district, who had called off school yesterday, also today, any after-school activities out of an abundance of caution. So here's a little bit of what they had to specifically say in Minneapolis.
Good morning, all. My name is Natasha Doctor, and I am a Minneapolis resident and Minneapolis Public Schools social studies teacher. Currently, I serve as the first vice president of the teacher chapter of the Minneapolis Federation of Educators. I'm here today because as a leader in our educator union, I have the profound responsibility to support our members in ensuring our schools are safe and stable places where all of our students can exercise their constitutional right to a public education. On Wednesday, educators at Roosevelt saw the safe and stable environment our schools provide violated by federal immigration enforcement agents. Just hours after the horrific murder of our neighbor, Renee Good, at the hands of the state, something we have experienced before on the South Side with George Floyd, a reckless group of CPD agents, which included Greg Bavino, were in the process of detaining an observer. In that process, agents came onto Roosevelt High School grounds during the school's dismissal process. While on school property, they deployed chemical irritants and detained an educator and MFE member who was doing their job at dismissal. Let me be very, very clear. Immigration enforcement should never, under any circumstances, be on school grounds. As we saw yesterday, as we saw on Wednesday, they do the exact opposite of making schools safe. And while Wednesday's event at Roosevelt was horrific and traumatic for our members, students and community, it unfortunately was not surprising. And it's not even the main story here in Minneapolis. The main story is about the violence against our immigrant neighbors and the fear and collateral damage it is causing across our communities. The perpetrator of that violence is federal immigration enforcement. What we saw in Minneapolis on Wednesday is an escalation of an existing threat, not a wholly new one. These tactics are standard use of force for DHS, the Border Patrol, and in communities across Minneapolis, in Chicago, LA, and across our country. The escalation of violence and threats that these agencies are causing here in our community led to school being canceled yesterday and today because the conditions in our city with these agents are unsafe. Our city's children are our most precious resource. And we will be the ones to keep them safe. As an educator and union leader, I am begging every single person in Minneapolis to get a whistle, wear it at all times, and get plugged into the rapid response network in your neighborhood. Whether you live here on the South Side, over in Linden Hills, East Isles, or up over north, our community, you all, will be the ones to get us through this moment. We keep us safe, ICE out of our schools, ICE out of Minneapolis, ICE out of Minnesota.
Okay, we are going to take a break and come back. When we come back, Fox News has obtained some brand new video from the scene of the killing of Renee Good on Wednesday, and we want to show that to you. So we will do that when we come right back. Stay with us. All Day Live continues.
Feels good to be back into the sunshine as we roll on into the day-to-day, or slide on into the day-to-day, as we look at the Maple Grove ice loop there, as folks are again doing their thing on some slippery spots. These intentional, not all of them necessarily so, this morning, earlier this morning, as we had some fresh rain that rolled across the area. Of course, yesterday evening, we picked up officially just about 0.12 of an inch in the Twin Cities. We had the low end just 1/100th of an inch in the Northwest Metro, but 1/4 inch in the Southeast Metro, but 1/2 inch to 1 inch in far southeastern Minnesota as it went rolling on by. But the good news, of course, was that we stayed thawed for all of that rain last night as it came rolling on by. It didn't fall below freezing until earlier, way earlier this morning. Then we stayed there for a while, now back up to 32 for a high today, so just teasing a thaw. Most of the day stays frozen, only teasing that thaw in the metro. Most of the viewing area stays in the upper 20s and lower 30s for the day. Only a handful of communities in the metro, around the Twin Cities, and in southern Minnesota just kind of dabble up at 32 or 33. Patchy clouds and sunshine build through the afternoon and evening after a brighter start. Northwest winds 5 to 10 miles per hour make for a light chill into the afternoon overall. But those clouds are coming from an approaching clipper that brings a dash of light snow overnight tonight. Since temperatures down to around 20, we'll pick up a dusting to a half inch in the metro, but upwards of an inch plus the farther northeast you go into northeastern Minnesota. And that leaves us chilly with blustery flow into tomorrow, windy, cloudier, and with off and on light flakes and flurries kind of sporadically through the day on Saturday. And temperatures hold, though, right around 21 degrees through the day on Saturday. We break free of that, get back to some partial sunshine, rebound just slightly into more seasonable temperatures in the mid to borderline upper 20s on Sunday. And then here comes a warm up again, looking nice and beautiful on Monday. Highs in the upper 30s to near 40 with sunshine. And trying to press that 40 button despite extra cloud cover on Tuesday with rain rolling back into the area, changing over to some light flakes on Tuesday evening, and then back to seasonable or close to at 20s heading into the middle days of next week.
.84.
And welcome back to All Day Live. We are awaiting some video that is coming into our system right now that we'll be showing you here in just a few moments. As soon as that's ready, Ryan will let me know and we'll take that. In the meantime, we want to talk a little bit about a big moment last night at Target Center. We'll bring in Andrew Dukowitz to tell us a little bit about it. Just an incredible moment for Anthony Edwards, although he didn't seem too jazzed about it. He was not all that excited. Andrew, welcome. And tell us a little bit about what happened last night with Ant.
Yeah, first I just want to say thanks for letting me be a little bit of a distraction on a day that I'm sure has been very busy and very full of emotions for people. Yeah. So just thanks for giving me the chance to come on and provide that service at least. Ant, though, I mean, he's the third fastest to reach 10,000 points behind only LeBron and Kevin Durant. After the game, we got the chance to ask him about it, and like you said, it's kind of typical Ant. Just brush off the compliments and move on to complimenting his teammates. Yeah. take a whole lot of time to reflect on it. Did make a comment that someone like me, who's in my 30s, you know, hits me right in the feels of, you know, wishes he could have done it a little slower so he didn't have to pass Kobe. But yeah, it's been just a great stretch for him this season.
Yeah, it was like, just for context, I think if I remember the graphic right, it was LeBron at 23 at 10,000, and then it was Kevin Durant at 24, and then Anthony Edwards at 24, and then Kobe Bryant right after that. So you know, rare air right there for sure. They're really doing well, this team right now. Tell me a little bit about the stretch that they're in. They're playing some really competitive teams.
Yeah, I think about 2 weeks ago, people were scratching their heads a little bit. They dropped a game against Brooklyn at home that was just kind of a lackluster appearance. Anthony Edwards kind of called out the energy, and he made a kind of derogatory comment about, I guess this is Timberwolves basketball. They go out and win 2 in a row, and then they have a very similar showing like that in Atlanta, Ant's hometown, where the energy level just wasn't there according to the team. And ever since that game, they've been fantastic. The last 4 games, they have been just locked in from the jump. They beat a Wizards team who at the time had won 5 out of 6. They've beaten the Cavs and the Heat twice now, which, you know, the Cavs and the Heat are both playoff teams. So they have the Cavs again tomorrow at noon Saturday, but this team has just really seemed to at least get that buy-in to where they're playing more consistent. The defense has been really good. And then Anthony Edwards is just kind of showing his leadership chops, because the beginning of games, he is bringing the energy in kind of a way that he hasn't really done his entire career, unless it's a playoff game or on national TV. Right. So it's definitely been fun to watch that like growth of him, of this is my team, it starts with me, and then go out there and do it.
And Andrew, I know you have an article coming out. Is it really on Joe Ingles?
Yeah,
anytime we see that, we got to read about Joe.
Yep, tomorrow morning a Joe Ingles article will be out on the internet. It kind of stemmed from yesterday morning in practice. While Mike Conley and Jalen Clark were attempting to do media, he was kicking a basketball as hard as he could to try and hit the ceiling, and trash talking them throughout their entire media session. So spent a good part of yesterday just asking different guys on the team how much he means to this group, and it's just always just kind of like enlightening when you ask about someone that doesn't really get to play a lot, and you hear these stories of just like how much he means to these guys, from Anthony Edwards and Jaden McDaniels all the way down to like Leonard Miller and Jalen Clark. He just seems to be this connector that helps everyone on the team get better. So figured why not write about it.
There you go. A few seconds left really quickly. WNBA, where are we at in the negotiations?
Yeah, the current extension to the CBA actually expires today. Now, if that does expire, it just means that everyone, you know, the world goes on. It's not a lockout yet. Everyone can still go to facilities, contact players, do that type of thing. But it would mark kind of an escalation of, you know, they're not entertaining extending this anymore. I think they're still pretty far away. The last I saw was the players are asking for like a 30% revenue share, and the league is still offering around like 12 to 15. But if there is a bright side to it, everybody knows how important this is going to be, how important this season is going to be for the league and the future of the WNBA. So I'm still confident they'll get it done, but it just might get a little more ugly before it gets done.
Andrew Dukowitz, where can folks find that awesome Joe Ingles article and more from you?
Yeah, everything I post on socials, pretty easy to find. It's ADukeMN across everywhere, ADUKEMN. All my written work is over on Zone Coverage. Article will be out there tomorrow morning. It'll also be on all of my socials. And then I do a post-game Wolves and Lynx podcast, airs on Twitter and YouTube. You can find it at either the Missing Wolves for Wolves and the Missing Lynx for Lynx.
All right. Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Take care. All right. Let's take you back out now to this is the Whipple building, the federal building in Minneapolis, where there are, it looks like more protesters than were there just even a couple of hours ago when we got on the air. And so, you know, on and off, we've, Ryan and Kara in the booth have been kind of watching this scene, and have said that there have been a couple of times when things got a little bit tense, but so far, Ryan, I don't know if you want to jump in, but so far you haven't seen anybody get arrested, at least that you've seen, is that right?
No, not today. We haven't seen any of that. We know that yesterday, DHS said that 11 protesters were arrested yesterday, but today what we're seeing is, yes, you're correct, Amy, it looks like that crowd is getting larger, and what's happening is kind of all of a sudden things stay calm, which is what it looks like right now, and then something will there'll be some kind of a confrontation with agents, and then you see there's a little bit more activity, but right now, calm. I remember talking to Rob Olson, who was out there yesterday, and he was saying they're standing in front of this gate to the Whipple building, and when that gate opens and a vehicle enters or exits, that's when there's the chance that there's some confrontation with these agents. So not clear if that's happening today, but that was the situation out there yesterday.
Okay, and then Ryan, I know you've been working on this as well. We got word just a short time ago that there is some new video that Fox News channel has obtained that was actually taken from ICE agent John Ross's cell phone. He's now been identified as the agent who was there on Wednesday. He's accused of firing the shots that killed Renee Good at 34th and Portland. In other videos that we have seen out there, you see the ICE agent holding a phone in some of those, and apparently, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is some of the video from his actual perspective from that
Correct,
that
from
phone.
his perspective in the moments up until and beyond when that car comes by him there.
Okay, we're gonna play that for you here with just a bit of a heads up, a warning that you will see Renee Good behind the wheel of the vehicle in the moments before she was killed. It stops when the shots are fired, but we just want to let you know that is what you're going to be seeing if you choose to watch.
I'm not mad at you. Show your face. I'm not mad at you. That's okay. We don't change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen, former. You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the car. Get out of the car. Whoa!
So again, that is the first time now that we have seen that video again shared. We don't know where the video came from. I mean, this is from a cell phone, apparently from that agent. So not sure where it came from exactly, but we do know the FBI is in charge of this investigation now. The Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, which is the state investigative arm, has been told by the FBI that they will not have access to any of the evidence, the vehicle, forensic testing, that kind of thing, that the FBI is going to be doing this solo. So that, again, we just wanted to show you that video. That you may be seeing that out there today. Ryan, it's been, I think, released to a couple of different news agencies.
Correct, yeah, and as you mentioned, Amy, the evidence and the Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty, Attorney General Keith Ellison expressing their concern over the investigation as it moves forward, and asking the public to come forward with any videos that they might have, and setting up a website that the public can do so. So that's just in an effort to get them the evidence that right now they have been blocked from by the FBI. So
yeah. They really are at the mercy of the FBI at this point, because you know, there really doesn't look like there's much of an avenue for the state to pursue charges. There is, but ultimately it looks as though the federal government would be taking over this case and taking it sort of to the end. Mary Moriarty, the Hennepin County Attorney, also just mentioning, you know, the urgency of maybe sharing any information that you may have sooner rather than later, because videos can get recorded over and you may not realize realize what you have, or any, it doesn't have to be video, any information that you may have. She said, don't try to determine yourself whether or not it's helpful, but just try to turn over any information that you have to authorities so that they can put together all the pieces. I mean, you've seen, just as everyone else has, Ryan, the different angles that we've seen here of the shooting, and so every little piece will be so important. The Attorney General Keith Ellison saying, no one from his camp will say right now what happened. We've heard the Trump administration say one thing, we've heard Mayor Fry say another thing, and everybody in between. But the folks who have to presumably try this and charge this out are saying, we wait till all the evidence comes in. So
yeah, and it was interesting to hear from County Attorney Mary Moriarty, who had talked about in the past, in the past, that the state has worked with the FBI on these investigations, and they have not been locked up. And typically, these two agencies, the BCA and the FBI, share information, and I think that was the assumption of what the county attorney and the attorney general was hoping for with this investigation, and it appears that has changed, at least initially here. We'll see what happens as we move forward.
It did seem like they were holding out hope, the attorney general and Hennepin County attorney, that, and the governor's tone even kind of changed to a, really asking the federal government to work with them. So we'll keep watching it for you and stay on top of all of these developments. They keep happening. Today, again, Day of Unity declared by Governor Walz, a day of service in honor and remembrance of Renee Good. So we are going to wrap up the show here. We hope that you have a great weekend. The sun is shining, Ryan. We needed that little bit of warmth today to just feel good and get out there and hopefully enjoy a weekend.
We'll leave you with a little calm video here.
That sounds perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. See you, everybody.
TMZ